Darryl Rowe arriving at court this morning, ready to take the stand for the first time.
A nasty, angry individual who carried out a cynical campaign.
He deliberately infected his gay lovers with HIV and then...
Darryl Rowe taunted and abused his partners after passing on the virus.
In 2018, Darryl Rowe hit the headlines as the first person in the UK to be jailed for deliberately infecting men with HIV.
It is an extraordinary case. Did we learn any more about Rowe's motive?
No, we didn't. That remains a mystery to everybody except for Darryl Rowe himself.
The media attention had all been on Darryl Rowe, but I wanted to find out more about the men he'd abused and tell their stories. These 5 men agreed to speak publicly for the first time on camera.
What does the name Darryl Rowe mean to you?
Quite sad, a bit twisted, but actually quite devious.
Kinda means regrets, embarrassment, nervousness.
It just means someone evil.
When I met the men, they all had the same question: why? This is their story and my attempt to get them some answers.
Hi, Darryl, how you doing?
I'm alright.
Listen, I've got Charlotte here.
Right.
And she wants to ask you a few questions.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
We've got 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, we've got 10 minutes.
I'm just going to go straight into it then, Darryl, because I think that's probably the easiest way.
Sure, okay, alright.
How did you meet Darryl?
Well, it all started in the first couple of weeks of July 2015 when the messages from him came through on Grindr, the gay hookup app.
I instantly recognised him. I'd seen him kind of around town. He'd used the same gym as me. I was attracted to him. He's a good-looking guy.
He was quite hot, and he seemed like a nice person, which at the time I don't have any reason to question that.
I actually thought he was Italian, very struck by how toned he was. And we arranged to meet up.
I was excited about going over just to hang out with the possibility of more. The area kind of put me off slightly, but he seemed nice when he answered the door and was, come on, welcome in. Yeah, just polite and friendly.
His door was open. He sent me a message saying, just come on in, I'm waiting for you.
He was sitting in his bed. Yeah, so he was sitting in his bed waiting for me.
We had just been hanging out for a couple of hours. They moved through to the bedroom and he didn't have condoms, but we both decided to have sex anyway.
He was quite direct, essentially making it clear he wanted to have unsafe sex. And sort of questioned him, you know, are you sure that's safe? And he sort of reassured me, like, yeah, man, don't be so paranoid.
I asked him to put a condom on, and he appeared to do so. After we had finished, I looked down at the bed, and the condom didn't seem to have semen in it. And I said to him, did you have that condom on? And he was standing next to the window and he flopped his hair back and said to me, are you one of these paranoid people? Yes, I had that condom on. And I just thought, oh, well, okay then. I stayed and chatted for about 15 to 20 minutes, and he showed me his favourite Pokemon video. I made my excuses and left.
I ended up staying the night, and we stayed up most of the night together. I would have been happy to carry on seeing him, whether it was just for fun or maybe go on a date. As I left and got on the bus, I checked my phone for messages, and because my online status came up on Grindr, he messaged kind of almost in a huff and be like, "I can't believe you're online already. Oh, you're a slag for being online so quickly afterwards." And because it was high maintenance, I was just like, cut the conversation dead. Take last night for what it was.
He then sent me subsequent messages asking if I enjoyed it. He would also phone me up, and then when I answered, he wouldn't say anything. 8 days later, he snapped and sent me a series of short messages in quick succession saying, "You're a fucking revolting jackass, ha ha ha, ha, I took the condom off." And he also included in these messages emojis depicting crying with laughter.
I got this message saying that he was HIV positive, and that it had a very high viral load. And I was kind of, what is this? So I sent him a very courteous message saying, "I'm sure you agree it's not a particularly nice thing to do to send that to someone. Can you confirm that that's not true?" And then he sort of was deliberately left it for a while. Eventually came back. It was kind of frustrating, isn't it? Sort of trying to make a point about me not replying to his messages. He'd blocked me.
The next time I heard from him would be almost a month exactly. And I was out with my boss just having a quiet pint after work, and I got a message through from him. And that was "I hope you enjoyed 4 of my loads. I have HIV. Smiley face."
In my mind's eye, I just thought, it's not true. You know, the fact that he just left me hanging on the very last message, I thought, he's just making this up. He's just being, childish.
It seemed to me Daryl Rowe was using the texts to psychologically torment the men. But it was the timing of the messages that was particularly malicious. Today, if someone suspects they've been exposed to HIV, they can take medication to potentially stop the virus. But this treatment has to be taken within 72 hours, and Daryl didn't tell the men until it was too late. I wanted to find out more about Daryl Rowe. I discovered he'd been in care from a baby and tracked down his foster parents, who'd looked after him from the age of 8. It's the first time Jackie and Harry have spoken publicly about their son, but then they'd known a very different young man.
He was very loving, so it was easy to love Daryl because he was so desperate, wasn't he, to be loved.
He actually asked if he could be calling us mum and dad. And he said, "Yeah, that's fine if you want to call us mum and dad."
I was always really proud that Daryl was so sociable with friends and family. You know, when he was young, most people really liked Daryl.
Yeah,
he was good company. You know, he was good at kind of making people a cup of tea when they couldn't house. He was a really lovable boy, and he was very loving. To think that he would deliberately infect anybody with HIV, it's unbelievable. There's absolutely no excuse for Daryl's behaviour.
As soon as I received the messages, I tried to find the first available appointment I could to get a HIV test.
I went for just my regular checkup, and I just showed the guy at the Chalmers Centre my message, and his face just dropped, and it wasn't the first message he had seen. And he then thought that I was likely to have got HIV from Daryl, and we were going to do a 24-hour blood test. I went home, had a bottle of wine, and kind of freaked out for the next 24 hours. I was almost stuck just sitting on the edge of the sofa thinking, how's my life going to change tomorrow night?
I got a phone call from the clinic asking me to come in that day. And I knew you only get a phone call if it's positive. And I fell silent and started shaking and said, did that test come back as positive? And the nurse on the phone said, it has, yes. I was dumbstruck. I couldn't believe it.
I went back to the clinic the next day to get my results. It was the same guy that seen me, and he was just very quick. It came back negative, which is obviously a massive, massive relief.
Hi guys. This is my first attempt to making my YouTube video. I'm vegan. I'm very passionate about treating my body well. You are what you eat. And there's many things that I do that many people might think that, oh, that's weird, that's not right. I don't drink, I don't smoke, don't do anything like that.
I found this video Daryl Rowe had put online about healthy living. He'd posted it just days after testing HIV positive. He was keeping his status secret, even from his family. He'd rejected prescribed HIV treatment, drugs which, if taken regularly, can stop the virus being passed on. Instead, he was drinking his own urine, a so-called cure he'd read about on the internet. I wondered how he could be in so much denial about his own health and hide it from his foster parents.
He always tried to eat healthily, you know.
Oh yeah, doctor's food. I mean, what Daryl lived on it. You wonder how he did live on it. So little, and it was seeds and, you know, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds.
We didn't know anything about HIV until we got a phone call from his lord. If I had known, I would have been hauling him up to the clinic to see the doctor. He didn't tell us. We didn't know. I think Daryl would be about 9 years old in this one. He was nearly when Daryl moved in with us, and he stayed until he was just about 19. He had been staying with a number of families. You know, he was excited about staying with us because he knew that he was going to be able to stay with us until he was an adult, if he wanted to. You know, if he wanted to, that was the choice. So he knew that he could settle down, but he was anxious. At that time, Daryl came with about 120 Barbie dolls. And I remember at night, we used to have to bath Daryl, then bath all the dolls, brush her hair. Honestly, it was a mission. I remember all the introductory meetings when we used to collect Darryl and bring him down to the house. And we were so anxious, because it was the first time we'd been fostering and, you know, we wanted Darryl to like us. We thought, oh my God, he might reject us. But we had always fully committed to Darryl. It was always in our head that Darryl needed to be with a family right through until adulthood, because his early years had been so disrupted. But for me, seeing him as a son, I guess I always kind of thought him as a son. You know, he came to us with some scarring on his body, and his head had been split open at one point, and he had some memories about having tea or boiling water scalded over him. So, you know, a lot of experiences as a very young child. It's not the best start in life.
From the moment I got my diagnosis, I was just aware that I would have to report this. He was a dangerous person who would need to be stopped. When I was speaking to the police, I provided them with his address, his phone number, and obviously screen grabs of the messages that he had sent me, and descriptions of his flat and descriptions of what he looked like.
It was now October 2015, and before the police had a chance to question him, Darryl Rowe had already gone on the run to Brighton. The Scottish police struggled to trace him. He'd left no forwarding address, had no bank account, and switched his phone. But he was still using the same dating apps.
Went on Grindr and started chatting to Darryl. We exchanged some pictures, as you do, and he was really adamant to have unprotected sex, which I was like, clearly said to him, absolutely not. That's not happening. He kept pushing it, and then I kind of just ignored him. And then obviously he kept messaging, and he was like, you know, fine, you know, we'll you know, whatever, we'll do it your way. And then he was at my door. He just showed up to my house. I was like, oh, what do I do? And I just basically just let him in. So yeah. So that's a moment that I always think about, you know, I should have just not opened that door. Darryl tried to force himself onto me without the condom. And I had to push him off me. And basically, you know, say to him, that's not what we agreed on. And then I was very, very, very stern with him. I was very like, if you don't, then you're leaving, like getting out my house. I just have no idea how he would have sabotaged a condom at that point. I mean, you know, I trusted him. That was a complete trust. I gave him the condom, saw him put it on, and then what he did with it then, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. Then things got a little weird. Some of the conversations that we had via WhatsApp, he was being really possessive, and then he was being really insulting about me being American. And he says, you Americans are so typical and so flaky. You know, things like that. And it was just like ongoing. And I was like, why are you being, you know, horrible? It wasn't very nice. I just didn't, at that point I was like, he's not a nice person. I blocked him. And it was the following Wednesday. I was at my house on my own, and my phone rings, and the voice is saying, how dare you block me? You know, stupid American. You can't get rid of me, like, you're gonna burn. I ripped the condom, you stupid, I got you. And I was just like, that initial was like, is this a joke? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, for a minute there, you're like, and then all of a sudden, I kind of realized who it was. And he said, it's, you know, it's me, it's Darryl, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, this is really weird. And I'm like, why would you say something like that? And then like, I hung up. And then again, the phone rang. And I picked up again, and he said the same exact thing. I ripped the condom. I got you. This rush of fear just kind of went over me. It was about 2 weeks after Daryl stopped contacting me. I got really sick. I felt really ill. I got some antibiotics, I started feeling better, but I wasn't still 100%. I went to the clinic and I just got my usual checkup. I got a call from the clinic and a text saying, we need you to call to discuss your results. And I've been tested many times before, and they usually tell you that, oh, you're all clear, you know, you're good to go. And this was a different call. And at this point, this huge fear just came over me again, and my friend just yelled at them over the phone saying, just tell him what it is, you know, he's in bits right now. And then they said, you're positive.
He didn't infect me with HIV. So in that sense, maybe I'm one of the lucky ones. I do feel a bit guilty because so if I had said something to the police or someone when I first met him, someone could have spoken to him and stopped him in his tracks. That is how I feel about it. I'm an adult. I should have known better. And I should have told the police at the time. I kind of feel like an idiot.
I remember saying to myself, how can I be so stupid, thinking I had done something wrong with somebody? Not that I did. It's just really overwhelming. The most overwhelming feeling ever in your life. You just feel like your life's over. You know, that's how I felt. Shit, my life's over. I went to the clinic the next day. She asked me the questions again. She said, do you know who it could have been? Daryl came to my head, and I was like, yeah. Funny that I received these really weird phone calls from this Scottish guy. And she was like, we've had 4 other cases that have pretty much said the same exact thing. I just looked at her and said, get the police. I want to report this.
Lenny reported what happened to Sussex police on February the 4th, 2016.
Shit happens, but I'm angry to find out there could be more people. And what are the chances? Everybody's pointing to the Scottish guy, you know.
He gave them what they'd been missing, a description of where Daryl Rowe was living.
Really sick.
He told us he was going to Brighton because it was the kind of gay capital of the UK, that life would be much better for him there. He felt that he could get a job hairdressing, he'd managed to get accommodation, so it all sounded like it was a positive move. So we were delighted for him, thinking, do you know, that is possibly the best thing we could do. We didn't know. We had no inkling that he'd been involved in any of the kind of behaviours that subsequently we found out about. We didn't know.
Sussex police arrested Darryl Rowe and questioned him under caution. He was now wanted for charges involving 7 men. The police told me that when they raided his home, he was living with another man who he had also been intimate with. Darryl Rowe's phone was seized. He'd been targeting hundreds of men nationwide using dating apps. All had to be contacted and told of possible HIV infection. A public health warning was released to warn others.
You have HIV? Have you had a HIV test recently?
Not recently, but I was talking to Brian about I had a relationship when I first got here and it was unprotected, so I've not been tested after that.
Okay. Is that something
for a couple of months. I'm a little bit worried about that, and hearing this is a bit,
Okay, so what you're saying is a couple of months ago you had a relationship, had unprotected sex.
When I first got here.
When you first got to
I was dating somebody pretty quickly, and it got quite intense.
Okay. You had unprotected sex with them, and you haven't had yourself, haven't had an HIV test since.
No.
Okay. So when was the last time you were clean?
Completely clean. 6 months ago, give or take.
Sussex Police bailed Darryl Rowe into the custody of Police Scotland. As part of strict bail conditions, he was closely monitored and was told to start HIV treatment. He was allowed to stay at his foster parents' house in North Berwick for 3 weeks.
I mean, he was relieved to have been bailed to our address for a bit and to be back home. He looked unhealthy. He didn't look well. He hadn't been looking after himself. He hadn't been taking any medication. It was a case of giving him a big hug and trying to settle him into the house. I ran him a bath. Harry had a dinner cooked for him. He spent a lot of time with Shadow, cuddling her, and over the next few days going out for walks. Certainly expected to go to jail. I remember when he said, I've let you and my dad down, you did everything you could, that none of this is your fault. I said to him, Darryl, you know, I'm so surprised because you've never been a kind of violent person. You've always detested violence. And, you know, when he ran off, I was really surprised.
Darryl Rowe bolted and went on the run, hiding first in the Pentland Hills above Edinburgh. During the search for him, the Scottish police discovered an abandoned tent. They told me they were alarmed to find HIV medication inside with Darryl Rowe's name on it. And of course, without taking the medication, he was once again at risk of being infectious.
I just thought, why on earth would he do that? Because we had talked about the need for him to face up to things, and say I just was really disappointed by it because I knew that the outcome would just be much worse. Particularly when he was involved in more offending. The very fact he was offending again made me question his sincerity about being sorry for what he'd done.
I was very angry when I found out that he was on the run and he had, you know, met other people and other men and had done that to them. And I kept saying that. He's going to do it to other people. He's going to do it to other men. He's going to keep doing this because he's sick in the head. Like, there's something, you know, obviously there's, you think about it, all these, Edinburgh, you think about Sussex, how many people, you know, how many guys, and then you let him go.
In November 2016, a nationwide manhunt was launched to find Darryl Rowe. At this stage, it was estimated that 22 men had reported him to the police. He'd made his way to Newcastle, and he was now using a fake name, Gary Cole. He needed somewhere to hide.
I created a profile on a web dating site called Plenty of Fish, and Darryl Rowe, who I believe was called Gary Cole, got in touch with me. He said that I had nice eyes. He also said that he liked older men, he liked what he'd heard about me, he liked the way I dressed, the way I wore my hair. I was obviously very flattered by his comments. Eventually, after a couple of weeks, we actually did meet up, and things moved on from there. I did find him sexually attractive, and I did actually find him appealing in regards to, you know, the kind of person, emotionally and mentally, that I would actually want to have a relationship with. Then I would have possibly maybe fallen in love with the guy. 3 days after I'd actually met Darryl, he came over and he told me he was having some issues with a friend who he was staying with in Sunderland. I said he could stay with me until he found somewhere more suitable for himself.
Darryl Rowe lived with Tom for the next 3 months.
It's always been far more difficult for me to actually, in fact, almost impossible for me to actually approach a man. And I guess that's probably why I've been quite gullible and you know, taking what I can in regards to attention from men. There was a honeymoon period. Everything seemed to be going really well. But soon he didn't really want me going out. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere, do anything I wanted to do. He was able to control me in a way which I don't think I ever want to be, you know, treated in that way again. It's almost like he put me in a box. I mean, I couldn't even watch the news.
A warrant had been issued for Darryl Rowe's arrest. The Scottish and English police were working together and were on his trail. Their investigation led them to an escort website. An officer told me about his unusual identification method. He'd recognised an image of Darryl Rowe's penis and matched pictures seized from Rowe's phone. The mobile number on the profile was traced to a house, Tom's home.
On the morning of our arrest, I heard the dogs barking, so I was on my way down the stairs to find out what they were barking at. I opened the door and there was a lady police officer there. She asked me who was there with me. I told her, this is my partner. She asked me to describe him, and I said he's 5'10", Scottish accent. As soon as I said Scottish accent, 2 police officers ran past me, up the stairs. By the time I got up the stairs, the officer was coming out of this room over here, and said, he's not here, where is he? And I says, well, he must, the only way down, apart from going past us, is to go out the window. So we walked into here, and there was no one here. Couldn't see anyone in the garden. After trying to open the window, he said, well, you know, couldn't have gotten out of there because the window doesn't open up. And I says, yes, it does. There's latches on both sides. So we opened up the latches. And then he realised that, you know, he'd obviously jumped out the window onto the flat roof, and then somehow getting off the flat roof, dropped down onto the garden, or tried to, but actually fallen down and landed on his back, smashing a vertebrae.
How did the police find him?
In pain. No, they found him on the deck, literally lying down, in a lot of pain, obviously. Couldn't move, couldn't walk properly. So, and that was in the neighbour's garden. I was arrested and taken into custody and actually spent 5 hours plus in a cell. Then the duty officer told me that his name wasn't Gary Cole, it was actually Darryl Rowe, and that they had reason to believe that I may have been his last victim. They wanted me to go for a test to make sure I was okay. Came back negative. I didn't feel any better. I felt used. Later, I found a bag, and in that bag was a little cardboard packet, card packet. And inside that were some condoms with the packets snipped at the corners. And there were a few in there, and I pulled one out very carefully. And when I looked at it, it was still wrapped up, but then the nipple was cut off. It's like you're taking a pair of sharp scissors and cutting the nipple off.
Had I hadn't protected sex with him, then I can say, shit, you made a mistake, and you get over that, right? But the fact that I didn't make that choice, and he ripped a condom and took that and made that what it was for him to get off, and he changed my life. And that's something that I can't get over. I feel I've been a victim of rape. I feel like I've been violated. I feel like there is a right of mine that's been taken away without my consent. And that's the thing that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis, is how can somebody be so fucking cruel? I grew up in a very troubled household. My parents died of AIDS in the 80s. My dad was a junkie, contracted HIV through needles and passed it on to my mom. It was a death sentence then. It was a very scary time. You know, I knew that they were gonna die. I grew up saying I would never, ever in a million years let this happen to me. I never wanted to utter those words that I had HIV. I never put myself in a position where I would be, you know, exposed to that.
In April 2018, Darryl Rowe became the first person in the UK to be jailed for deliberately infecting men with HIV. The charges were GBH, attempted GBH, and in Scotland, culpable and reckless conduct. 24 men appeared in court to accuse him of abuse, but the exact number he targeted is still unknown.
I think for the last couple of years now, since it all went on, it has just been almost like numb and I don't feel like the same person I was 3 years ago. I don't enjoy the same things. And knowing that I didn't have HIV, I didn't feel like celebrating that fact. It's just triggered all these mental health problems. I miss how sociable I used to be. And happy.
It kind of feels like it's not done. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like it's not done. Because of what he did, I kind of feel like, is he getting off on this in some level? You know, is he sitting in a prison cell just now, laughing to himself? That's how I really feel about it. Like he's kind of laughing at us. I didn't expect to say that.
Darryl Rowe has always denied any responsibility for his actions. After meeting the men, I was determined to talk to him, and he finally agreed to speak to me from prison.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Darryl. How you doing, darling?
I'm alright, how are you?
I'm good. Listen, I've got Charlotte here.
Right.
And she wants to ask you a few questions.
Yeah.
So I'll pass you over to Charlotte.
Hello.
Hello.
So, on behalf of the men that were affected, I want to ask you, why did you do it, I suppose? Why did this happen?
Yeah. I mean, I think I was building a really unhealthy relationship with sex, which I need to work on. And it was when I got the diagnosis, because I was in so much denial about it, and I had in my mind that I was going to cure myself with this urine therapy, that I almost used that as an excuse in my head for continuing to have unprotected sex. Like, I thought in my mind, well, this must be maybe blocking it in a way. I hold my hands up completely. On occasion, not using a condom when I was asked to. And that to me was obviously the worst point. I mean, 100% in my mind, I wasn't thinking, right, I've definitely not got it. But I was, in that point, I was convinced, I was thinking, right, I'm blocking it. But at the time, in that kind of high emotional sort of situation, I used it as a sort of, well, like a weapon to get a reaction from them, which was really immature. The only time it was in my thought process when I was afterwards, and I thought, wait a minute, what if I have passed it on to them? What if the cure's not working? That was probably the only time that the HIV came into my mind.
And why did you send the text messages about HIV?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't coping well at all when I was rejected by anybody, and I think it was building up. The thing I really couldn't cope with was when I was talking to somebody or dating somebody, and they would maybe make plans with me, but then they would just completely ignore me for no reason, no explanation. And then obviously the messages came out at that point, that kind of emotion. Yeah, and at that point it was about HIV. That's the first thing that came to my head. I thought, this will get a reaction, this will get them responding to me, and it got out of control. I would like to say to the men in Scotland and in England that I am really sorry for my behaviour. I'm sorry for being so naive and so reckless, and that they are the ones that are suffering now for that. But I mean, the main thing for me is I hope that they can forgive me one day, and that they can try and live a happy life and put this behind them.
I'm going to pass you on to Jackie.
Hi, Darryl.
Hello. On another not so important note, guess what I got today?
What?
The DVDs that you sent me.
Oh, really?
So I've got Cougar Town and the Dua Lipa CD.
Cougar Town.
Listen, it's so funny, it's hilarious.
Do you know what we've been watching? Grey's Anatomy.
Don't, I love that. How amazing is it?
I know.
Oh, it's such an... How far into it? I mean, it's got 15 seasons.
We've watched up to the end of 14.
Do you not remember? Oh my god! How
Says she.
amazing is it though? God, I mean, it just has episodes like that out of the blue and you're just on the edge of your seat.
I know.
You're further than me. I've only got to, like, what was it? 11 season? Season 11? But yeah, oh my god.
I think he deserves to be in jail and stay in there.
He's an ongoing threat. I think behind bars is where he needs to be.
I hope somewhere inside him that he one day realises what he did was really wrong and cruel. And that he feels guilty for it himself.
Darryl Rowe was sentenced to life imprisonment and placed on the sex offenders register. The text messages he sent were used in evidence to prove his deliberate intent to infect the men and cause them harm. The judge's closing statement said, "The offences, taken together, are so serious that a life sentence is justified. He would potentially remain a danger to others for the rest of his life."
Oh. Hi. Okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Difficult.
Why is it difficult?
Just seeing him locked up like that, you know, it's not what you'd want. It's just sad. I don't think I'll ever get used to it, to be honest. You know, it's just seeing Darryl in prison. If I see him 3 or 4 times a year, that'll be about as much as I'll ever be able to see him.
I feel really grateful that medication has moved on. It's okay to live with HIV. It's not a death sentence. That's all I can really say out of it. And I thought that when I first found out. I really did. I thought that was it for me. And silly me, stupid me for thinking that, which is not. It's not the truth. It's not the case.
The psychological abuse has affected me a lot more than the HIV infection. You know, for the HIV infection, I can take 1 tablet once a day and lead a very ordinary life. That's a breathtaking scientific achievement.
I'm just gonna move on and enjoy my life and live a happy one.